In the mountains of western Montana, surrounded by miles of untouched forest, stands a decaying radio tower known locally as Station E7. Official documents say it was decommissioned in 1980 due to outdated tech and budget cuts. But the people who live nearby know another story, a story that gets darker every year. For a long time, the station was just another abandoned building left to rot. Its metal skeleton creaked in the wind, and hikers would snap pictures of it before moving on. But no one ever stayed long. Locals swore the air around the tower felt wrong. Like it hummed with an unheard energy, like someone was whispering just out of earshot. The legend truly began in the winter of 1992. Truck drivers and long-distance radio operators started reporting strange interference. They all described the same thing: faint tapping, followed by a woman's voice repeating fragmented words, as if reading from a torn script. Most people dismissed it as atmospheric disturbance, but a few noticed something odd. The voice always came from 87.3, a frequency that had been dead since the station shut down. No one managed to get a clean recording until a man named Thomas Hale entered the picture. Thomas was a quiet high school science teacher with a passion for old technology. He collected vintage radios, and on cold Montana nights, he'd scan abandoned FM frequencies just to hear the static. He said it calmed him. One evening, he stumbled upon a weak, trembling voice on 87.3. "If someone hears this, please, don't let him find me." It sounded like the woman was inches from the microphone. Behind her voice was a metallic clatter, like equipment being knocked over. Then, fast, heavy footsteps. The signal cut to silence. Thomas stared at his radio, sure he'd misheard. But then he noticed something impossible. His old analog radio clock, which needed to be set by hand, was now 14 minutes ahead. The radio wasn't connected to the power grid. There was no way for it to automatically update. And yet, something had changed it. The next night, Thomas waited by the radio for hours. At 11 a.m., the broadcast returned. But the woman was gone. Instead, the microphone captured slow, deliberate breathing, deep, wet. Almost animal-like. Then came the tapping, 6 taps, a pause. 6 more taps. A rhythm designed to announce its presence. Thomas recorded the transmission and reported it to the local police, who dismissed it as interference from distant stations. But Thomas didn't believe them. Not after hearing that breath. Not after seeing the time change. The next morning, police visited the abandoned Station E7. They expected to find an empty room filled with dust and decay. And at first, that's what they saw. Cracked monitors, rusted switches, broken cables. But then they noticed something else. On the main desk, untouched for decades, sat a microphone. Not an old one from the 80s. A new one. A model that didn't even exist when the station closed. And its red indicator light was glowing. Even more unsettling was what they found on the floor. A faint, wet footprint there, human-shaped, with long, thin toes led from the doorway to the desk. The duster on it was smeared as if someone had dragged their heel. But there were no footprints leading into the room. Only that single print heading toward the microphone, and then stopping. As if the person who left it had walked into the wall and simply vanished. Police sealed the area. But before any official investigation could begin, something far worse happened. A 23-year-old woman from a nearby town, Lilian Marks, disappeared on her way home from work. Her car was found on a gravel road near the base of the tower. Her purse, jacket, and phone were still inside. The phone contained one final, 8-second audio recording. A soft, shaky whisper, "I hear the tapping. He knows I listen." Then, the same 6-step pattern Thomas had recorded. And a low breath that made the officers recoil when they heard it. Lilian was never found. After her disappearance, dozens of people across Montana began reporting the same strange phenomenon. Late at night, their radios would flicker, and for a moment, every frequency would shift to 87.3. Sometimes they heard tapping. Sometimes breathing. And sometimes, layered voices male and female at once saying, "Next listener, next listener." Thomas became obsessed. He dug through old logs and blueprints of the station. Many documents had been destroyed in a fire, but he found one engineer's surviving files. They detailed an experiment from 1979 involving a prototype transmitter designed to boost emergency signals. The transmitter was experimental, producing electromagnetic effects no one understood. The notes mention that during tests, staff members reported hearing echoes of their own voices seconds after speaking. Not feedback. Something else. Something reactive. Like another voice trying to imitate theirs. One line in the report haunted Thomas: "Microphone picks up breathing in empty room. Technician missing. Investigation ongoing." The technician was never named. The investigation was never completed. The transmitter was shut down soon after. Thomas tried to show this evidence to the authorities, but they told him to stop, claiming he was digging into classified materials. They told him to move on. But Thomas couldn't. He started sleeping beside his radio, waiting. The signal returned every night, at a slightly different time. The breathing grew heavier. The tapping faster. At times, faint voices whispered his name. Thomas, listener. 2 weeks after Lilian disappeared, Thomas vanished as well. His house was unlocked, his car in the driveway, his bed untouched. His radio was still on, emitting a soft static hiss. Neighbors reported hearing a broadcast just before he disappeared. The sheriff described the final transmission this way: a low voice, neither male nor female, speaking as if pressed right up against the microphone. He's out of the walls now. After Thomas vanished, the story of Station E7 spread far beyond Montana. Radio hobbyists across the country tuned into 87.3, trying to hear the mysterious broadcast. Many heard nothing. But some captured strange audio, a mixture of layered frequencies, distorting into shapes that almost resembled words. One group of researchers converted the audio into a spectrogram, a visual map of sound. What they saw made them abandon the project entirely. The waveform created a face. Long, elongated, with enormous hollow eyes and an open mouth, as if screaming through the frequencies. The researchers insisted it wasn't a coincidence. It was too symmetrical, too detailed, too intentional. But the most chilling part was this: some listeners reported feeling something behind them while the audio played. A cold breath. A shift in the air. A presence. Several saw dark figures reflected in windows, figures that vanished when they turned around. Experts have tried to debunk the story with theories of interference and hoaxes. But none of that explains the modern microphone inside a building with no power. Or the single wet footprint with no entrance trail. Or the fact that recordings from 87.3 often include faint, overlapping voices not echoing, but responding. As if they can hear the listener. As if they are waiting. To this day, the station sits empty. Its metal frame rattles in the wind. The ground around it remains strangely cold, even in summer. Hikers who venture too close claim they hear tapping in the trees. 6 taps, a pause, 6 more. Some say if you stay long enough, your phone will vibrate, even with no signal, and you'll receive a single voicemail from an unknown number. When you play it, you'll hear breathing, a whisper, and a voice, layered and shifting, speaking directly into your ear. Next listener. And if you ever hear that message, do what the survivors say they did. Turn off your radio. Leave the mountains. And never return to 87.3. Because once you hear the broadcast of Station E7, it already knows your voice. And it will keep listening. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more strange tales from the static. Stay safe out there.